The U.S. has many warning signs that we use to measure the progress of authoritarianism. We can look at authoritarianism, we can use a political definition, which is when the executive branch tries to expand into the powers of the other branch, so going after the judiciary, ignoring due process, rule of law, attacking judges. All of this has been part of what the Trump administration is now doing. There's also an attempt to almost rule by executive order, as though Congress doesn't matter. And that too, in authoritarian states, we see the executive disregarding the will of the legislature. Sometimes they do that by states of emergency, or just making the parliament into a rubber stamp, as has happened in Russia and other countries. So there's also that. But we also can look at authoritarianism in another light, as a situation or a process when the rights of the many are reduced or eventually eliminated in some places, such as rights of assembly, free speech, voting rights, of course, reproductive rights. So the rights of the many are curtailed while the freedoms of the very few, the billionaires, the oligarchs, are hugely enhanced. And so authoritarian states are states where through deregulation or privatization, the very rich are able to plunder the workforce because of the removal of labor laws, plunder the environment, plunder women's bodies, plunder anything they want and get away with it. And sadly, with all the rollbacks to regulations and enhancements of privileges for the very rich, we already see this happening. That too is proceeding in America. Modern authoritarian leaders, there are continuities with earlier autocrats in how they use media, but there are also some significant differences. One element of continuity is personality cults, and that they proclaim the leader as the man of the people, so relatable, people can bond with him, but also the man above all other men. So the only source of truth, the embodiment of masculinity and power. And really from Mussolini up to Trump and Putin, the rules of personality cults have remained astonishingly the same. But of course, social media and the new media environment makes it very different to operate in for both the autocrat and for media people. In particular, if we think about propaganda, the way that it is effective is by circulating the same information but with tiny variations so people don't get bored. And social media makes this much easier. It accelerates the circulation of propaganda because when you share something, let's say you're sharing something by Putin or by Bukele or by Trump, you're also sometimes putting your own spin on it. Maybe you add a meme or you add an image to it. And so you're circulating the propaganda in ways that make it feel fresh. So that's one way that social media, and there's lots of good research on this, accelerates propaganda that helps authoritarians. But on the other hand, there's a kind of fragmentation, and you could call it individualization of the media environment right now. Think of all the creators and influencers on TikTok and all the YouTube shows, all the Substack newsletters. And this makes it actually harder for any autocrat to totally control the media environment. So for a century, there are certain tactics and strategies that have been used with success to push back against authoritarian leaders. One of them is nonviolent mass protest. And at certain points in a regime, this has been very, very effective. Sometimes if it's timed, if you still have elections in the country and authoritarianism is not too advanced, you can change the country's destiny, as happened in Poland in 2023, by organizing mass demonstrations. And in Poland, they were the largest since the fall of communism, and they were held right before the election of 2023, which actually booted out the far-right government. Another example in Chile in the 1980s, there you had a military dictatorship, a really horrible and bloody, long dictatorship. But by the 1980s, it was starting to become weaker. And you had labor and education and regular people who all came together. So across coalitions are very important, faith leaders. And so they started a momentum in Chile that went on for years and succeeded in making Pinochet, the dictator, resign. So there are lessons we can learn from mass nonviolent protest. Another, if you're at the beginning of a regime or the beginning of something that seems like it could become a regime, it's very important to show solidarity and allyship to the first people who are being targeted or the first groups, because they are always test cases. Autocrats like to single out one group or one organization or one person sometimes for retribution. The Trump administration is doing this right now. And it's very important to stand up, as the legal profession is doing to some extent. Judges have been turning back President Trump's edicts. And because these early actions encourage other people to come out and stand for what is right.